WRLR.
Welcome to the Dave Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The Dave Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The Dave Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals.
Okay, welcome back to the Dave Mierswa Show. We were just talking about the Iranian deal, and one of my predictions is that there is going to be a mass violation of this agreement. And I also think that there's going to be an international incident where they attack one of our ships. So not only did they take the sailors, but I believe in the next 6 months, you're going to see posturing by Iran that they're going to stake a claim in the Gulf. And why is this? Because of lack of foreign policy. And a lot of this was carried out by Hillary. And here's another reason why Hillary's going to have a huge problem. Because of the foreign policy that she promoted in the Middle East, that has resulted in all of the fractured governments that we're seeing. And I also predict, and this is a no-brainer, that you're going to see a huge uptick here in the homeland of the United States with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And I don't know if you saw this in the news or not, but just in Africa, there was another Al-Qaeda attack that happened. They attacked a hotel. See, this is their MO. They pick these soft targets where Western people hang out. Western people love to hang out at spas, restaurants, and really nice hotels. They attacked this. It was over in Africa. 14 or 15 people were shot dead, and they took 127 people hostage. And this was not ISIS, this was Al-Qaeda. And I predict, now here is where it's going to get really interesting, but unfortunately there is going to be a huge payment for this in the form of lives. You're going to have ISIS versus Al-Qaeda. ISIS versus Al-Qaeda for posturing and seeing what kind of horrific attacks that they can do against the Westerners, and also including the Middle Eastern countries. Okay, you're going to see these two people jockey for position and trying to compete with each other on YouTube. And of course, that's going to result in more horrific attacks. And everyone, and remember, it was just a year ago when President Obama said that Al-Qaeda was in fact destroyed. And that's not true. Here's what's happening in Afghanistan. As we are standing down in Afghanistan, the Taliban have been infiltrating all of the provinces that we lost our troops in over the last 10 years, have spiked again with the Taliban. You're going to see in 2016, you are going to see a huge attack in Kabul. Kabul is the capital of Afghanistan. They want to make a statement. You're going to see probably 4, 5, or 6 bombs go off simultaneously with these individual attacks in hotels. So you're going to see a huge attack in Afghanistan. And here's another thing, that one of the provinces, the Hamid province in Afghanistan, which has been fought for, that we took control over, and then Obama evacuated our troops out of there. We got less than 10,000 troops now in Afghanistan that have orders not to engage in combat. So all of the lives that were laid on the line and all of the injured military veterans are for in vain. You're going to see the same thing that happened in Iraq. You're going to see the same thing happen in Afghanistan. It's going to fall apart. It's going to become a haven for terrorists even more, because he is stating when he's going to draw down the troops. And they're waiting. They're waiting. Unbelievable. Here's another thing that I talked about in the past. In my past shows, I talked about Gitmo. I was one of the very few people on the radio that predicted that our president was going to do anything to close Gitmo at the cost of American lives and Western lives. He's going to close Gitmo at any cost. And the Senate, all the senators, most of the senators, which include the left liberal Democrats, are against closing Gitmo. He doesn't care. He's in his own world, in his own planet, and at the expense of American lives and Western lives. You're going to see there are, I believe, about 80 to 85 prisoners left at Gitmo. You're going to see him do it in 10 and 15 blocks of these prisoners, going back to the Middle East, and within 3 months, 4 months, you're going to see them reappear on YouTube fighting and killing Americans. So that's a no-brainer. These people are sworn... What is... All right, the computer just took on a life of its own. One of the things that I predict is AI, artificial intelligence. This computer was trying to shut me off. I was in the middle of yelling about Obama, and I think someone programmed this computer to be left. But, so I didn't touch it. And that's what happened before. As soon as the show started, it started playing the doo-wop hour. So I think the mouse is a little bit sensitive. But anyway, we got that shut down. So I predict that Obama is going to shut down Gitmo, and all of these hardcore prisoners are going to go back. They are going to kill Westerners, including Americans. So look for the news in the next 6 to 9 months that these people be reemerge in YouTube and they'll be back on the battlefield. So that is one of the big things that Obama would be doing. Another thing that I'm going to predict for 2016 is that the fallout in Chicago with Rahm Emanuel and the CPD, the Chicago Police Department, that is going to get ratcheted up. They just released another video, and I believe there could be one more in the works. And they are not going to back down, and the Black Lives Matter movement is going to get more aggressive, and I don't have a problem with them protesting. I think it's great that they're out protesting, but one of the problems that I have with it is they're blocking the entrances to merchants, and they're blocking the streets. And it's not like a Raleigh where they have a predicted route where you can say, okay, I'm going to stay off the street. They're trying to block traffic in the middle of rush hour. So that is going to pick up more steam in 2016. So let's hear what Rahm Emanuel has to say about CPD and the firing of the police chief there. So let's play this audio, and let's see what... Actually, I'm going to play an audio from Lisa Madigan and what she has to say about the Chicago Police Department. I think that's going to be a huge ordeal going into 2016. It is going to be an uproar. I believe that you're going to see an upscale and the Justice Department coming in, taking a look at more police departments. But I think this is only the tip of the iceberg as to some of the behaviors that are going to come out eventually in this. But I think Rahm Emanuel is going to stay in power. And I believe he's going to be up for election this year, if I'm not mistaking that. No, it's Lisa Madigan. Lisa Madigan's up for voting and up for election. So I believe she's going to get voted out, but I believe Rahm Emanuel, down in Springfield, they're trying to introduce legislation that have him removed. But I predict he's going to stay in. But anyway, let's hear what Lisa Manigan has to say about CPD.
Lisa Madigan asked the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate whether Chicago police practices violate federal law. The request by Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan comes on the same day that Chicago's police chief was fired, following the release of dashcam video that showed an officer fatally shoot 17-year-old Laquan McDonald last year. Madigan said in a statement, "The shocking death of Laquan McDonald is the latest tragedy in our city that highlights serious questions about the use of unlawful and excessive force by Chicago police officers and the lack of accountability for such abuse. Trust in the Chicago Police Department is broken."
Okay, so that was a report that Lisa Manigan, at the last minute, called up the Justice Department to have them come in and investigate. And it just so happens that she's under elections this year, so if it wasn't an election this year, she wouldn't have, I don't think she would have called them in. But I think you're going to see a huge scandal. I think it may come out that Rahm Emanuel covered up the shooting. And I'm not going to get into the political side of the shooting of the 17-year-old that the BLM is been protesting. The facts on that, walking up the street with a knife, that's one thing. But I think you're going to see that the Black Lives Matter movement is going to grow in 2016. I think you're going to see some other shootings, and I think you're going to see one or two big riots like in Baltimore and Ferguson. So it's kind of waiting in the winds. And the shootings in Chicago, if you haven't seen that, that's huge. The shootings in Chicago have just been astronomical. I think you're going to see record numbers in that because the police department are down. They are down like over 1,000 or 2,000 arrests already for 2016. So that's going to lead into tens of thousands of arrests that aren't going to happen. So crime's going to go up. I think you're going to see a lot more shootings in Chicago as a result of this. So the very thing that they are trying to prevent, the BLM is actually going to cause the shooting, more shootings in Chicago. So I don't know if they know that or not, but that's what I'm talking about. So one of the big other things that I'm going to predict is that in the next 2 or 3 months, probably within the next 60 days, you're going to see the head of the FBI and possibly some other agencies that are going to turn over evidence to the Justice Department. And Loretta Lynn, who is the new Justice Department head, is going to have to take a hard look at this. I believe that this is going to take place within 60 days or so. From some of the reports that I've read online, it looks like the email scandal, they have more than enough evidence to charge. And they just hired between 100 and 200 new FBI agents to look into the expanded investigation into her foundation and Bill taking money in a conflict of interest with her being head of the state and accepting all these donations, which in law we call that a conflict of interest. The Hillarys just call that doing business every day. So I think that's going to turn into a huge scandal. And I believe, now here's the kicker, the FBI can turn over all the evidence to the Justice Department and say nothing. They have a choice to say nothing. But I believe within 60 days, maybe outside of 90, I believe it's going to be sooner, much later, they're going to recommend her to be charged with several felonies. I believe she'll be charged with felonies. And the FBI is going to recommend this. And this is going to create such a firestorm that this is going to make a Nixon and what happened with Nixon look like a playground fight. We are talking hundreds of millions of dollars donated. And not only that, with all these emails, she also faxed a whole bunch of classified documents on fax machines that weren't secure. They're unsecured fax machines. That's another thing that she violated. Not only the emails, the fax, and then you're going to see this conflict of interest, and she violated her duty under the State Department. This is going to be the kicker. So let's play a audio clip here that Hillary Clinton urged some of her aides working in the State Department to strip classified markings off of documents. So let's hear this audio clip.
So what's worse, Hillary's emails or her husband's females? A new batch of Hill's emails have been released from her private account, 66 of which have been deemed classified. That's 1/6 short of 666. The State Department claims none of these emails were marked classified at the time they were sent. However, one email from June 2011 shows Clinton telling her top advisor, Jake Sullivan, to send secure info through insecure means. Sullivan writes, they say they've had issues sending secure fax. They're working on it. She responds, if they can't, turn into non-paper with no identifying heading and sending non-secure. Translation, Tucker, you break the law, so I don't have to. This is kind of a big deal.
It's on her server, so she broke the law. Look, Republican direct mail guys have been making money for the past year saying, Hillary's going to be indicted. And so my instinct has been to ignore, she's not going to be indicted. She's Hillary Clinton. How is she not indicted, actually, at this point? There's an FBI investigation into whether she broke the Espionage Act, which only requires that you store classified information in an unsecured server. You don't have to do it even knowingly. At this point, can they actually finish this investigation without recommending felony charges? I don't see how. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, this seems pretty bad, Megan.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't think Hillary Clinton's a liar and something nefarious was going on with her emails at this point, I really don't know what it's going to take, and you're completely delusional. My other favorite thing is I was under the impression that Hillary Clinton was like this grandma that couldn't use her BlackBerry. Yeah. Send it to me in a non-secure form with nothing. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. What are I going not?
Okay, so that was audio clip that I believe that was from Fox News, and I think that this email scandal is really going to take hold. It's not going to go away. This last week, Trey Gowdy, who's been investigating this, made public the email that urged other state workers to wipe clean classified markings on State Department documents. So that in itself is egregious. So with this behavior, she'll triple down. She will deny anything happened and all that. But I believe the Justice Department is going to have but no choice to maybe put it before some kind of grand jury or charge her outright. And if this happens, she'll deny everything. She'll look into the media's face, and then she'll blame it on the Republicans that it's a witch hunt. And she'll deny everything right up until the last minute. So I got just a minute or so left here. So those are some of my 2016 predictions. And next week, I'll be back on at 12 noon. I am going to continue to talk about 2016 predictions and what's going to be hot for 2016 and what is not hot for 2016. So I got to sign off here. It feels good to be back in the studio here and broadcasting to all the friends and listeners out there. And this is the time of show where I got to say goodbye until next week. You folks out there, it's pretty cold, so make sure you bundle up. You take care of yourself and your friends and family, And I will talk to you next Sunday at 12 noon. Take care now.
You are listening to WRLR 98.3 FM, the Talk of Lake County.